Good morning, dear students. So today we'll be discussing on calcium homeostasis. So already we have finished with few topics regarding calcium. That is, we discussed about sources of calcium, RDA, absorption, functions. Today we'll be discussing on homeostasis. That is regulation of body calcium. You all know why we need calcium. So why do we need calcium? So we need calcium for various metabolic functions, right? So one is we need calcium for bone and teeth formation. Then we need calcium for muscle contraction, for the impulse transmission of nerve impulse. Then it is also required for activation of many enzymes, hormones, helps in the synthesis of secretion of hormones. Then it acts as an important factor in blood coagulation. Then it also acts as a secondary messenger, has a role of heart, etc. So there are many functions of calcium. Then, so why do we regulate calcium? Why should we regulate calcium? So what is the role of calcium maintaining homeostasis? So whenever there is an increase in the body's calcium, or whenever there is decrease in the body's calcium, so this calcium levels need to be regulated. And how can we regulate the body's calcium? So our calcium, the total calcium in our body which is present can be like what is the amount of calcium, serum calcium, that is 9 to 11 mg per deciliter. So what happens if the concentration of calcium increases above 11? It results in hypercalcemia. Then if it is below 9, it results in hypocalcemia. So either hypocalcemic conditions or hypercalcemic conditions. Both are dangerous conditions. So how can we regulate the body's calcium? So the calcium levels in our body can be regulated with the help of different hormones. So the three main hormones which regulate the blood calcium level are: one is calcitriol, parathyroid hormone, other is calcitriol. Along with this, estrogen, glucocorticoids, etc. Plasma proteins also helps to regulate the serum calcium level. Let us discuss individually the role of these hormones. So the major factors that regulate the plasma calcium level are: one is calcitriol, as we discussed. So calcitriol. So what is calcitriol? It is the active form of vitamin B, right? So it is also known as 1,25 dihydroxypolycalciferol. So what is the main role of calcitriol? It helps to increase the serum calcium level. How? By acting on three different organs, that is intestine, bone, as well as kidney. And what is the role of calcitriol on intestine? So action on intestine. So it increases the intestinal absorption of calcium. So along with calcium, phosphate is also absorbed. Right. Action on bone. So here, as we know, there are two types of bone cells: osteoblasts and osteoclasts. So what are osteoblasts? Osteoblasts, they help in mineralization of bone. That means increased deposition of calcium in the bone. That is known as osteoblastic activity. Then what are osteoclasts? Osteoclasts, they helps in a demineralization. That means remove calcium from the bone. So then what is the role of calcitriol here? The role of calcitriol is osteoblastic activity. That means calcitriol helps in mineralization of bone. That means helps to deposit calcium into the bone and promotes calcification. Then coming to the role of calcitriol on intestine. So intestine, calcitriol increases the reabsorption of calcium and phosphorus by the renal tubules. That means indirectly, so increased reabsorption means it decreases the excretion of calcium. So this is the overall role of calcitriol. So finally, what is the role of calcitriol? It increases the serum calcium level. How? By increasing the intestinal absorption of calcium, by stimulating osteoblastic activity, that means mineralization of bone, as well as it increases the reabsorption of calcium and decreases the excretion. So that is about calcium. Then next is PTH, parathyroid hormone. PTH. So what we know about PTH? So this hormone is secreted by parathyroid glands. So it's a peptide hormone which contains about 84 amino acids. So it plays an important role in increasing the plasma calcium levels. How? So this also acts on three different organs, that is like intestine, bone, and kidney. So then, how does it regulate the calcium level? So here, what is the role of PTH on intestine? So on intestine, it increases the intestinal absorption of calcium, and also it promotes the synthesis of calcitriol. So by promoting synthesis of calcitriol, so indirectly, as we know, the role of calcitriol is to increase the plasma calcium levels. Then action on bone. So here, the role of PTH is to increase the plasma calcium level. How? It stimulates the osteoclasts. What are osteoclasts? So osteoclasts helps in demineralization. That means they increase the mobilization of calcium from the bone. This bone resorption, and they stimulate and they help to increase the serum calcium level. So they increase the mobilization of calcium and phosphate. Along with calcium, phosphate is also increased mobilization of both calcium and phosphate by stimulating osteoclastic activity. Then coming to kidney. So here the role of PTH on kidney is to they increase the calcium reabsorption by the renal tubules, and finally they decrease the excretion. So increase reabsorption and decrease in the excretion of calcium. So this is the overall role of PTH. So finally, the role of PTH is to elevate the serum calcium concentration. So I hope this is clear. So the role of calcitriol also increases calcium level. The role of PTH is also to increase the calcium concentration. Then what is the role of calcitonin? So calcitonin. So before that, let me introduce about calcitonin. So this is secreted by parafollicular cells of thyroid gland. So this is a single peptide hormone containing 32 amino acids. The overall function of calcitonin is to decrease the serum calcium level. That means, whenever there is hypercalcemia, the role of calcitonin comes into action so that it can decrease the serum calcium concentration. Then, so how does it decrease the calcium level? Acting on intestine. So what is the role of calcitonin on intestine? It decreases the intestinal reabsorption of calcium. Then the role of calcitonin on bone. So here calcitonin stimulates the osteoblastic activity and inhibits osteoclastic activity. That means here calcitonin helps in mineralization of bone. That means whatever calcium present in plasma, it is taken up by the bones. So bone mineralization, that is osteoblastic activity, and inhibits osteoclasts. Then the role of this on kidney. So here it decreases the calcium reabsorption by the renal tubules. That means it increases the excretion of calcium. So it decreases reabsorption of calcium and increases excretion of calcium. So finally, what is the role of calcitonin is to decrease the serum calcium level by activating osteoblasts as well as by decreasing the reabsorption and increasing the excretion of calcium. So finally, what did we understand? the role of PTH and calcitonin are completely antagonistic to each other. That means opposite to each other. Because PTH function is to increase the serum calcium level, whereas the calcitonin function is to decrease the serum calcium level. So let me summarize all the three hormones put together in a single slide. So now you can see all the three hormones and their role on intestine, bone, as well as kidney. As I told you, the function of calcitriol is to increase the calcium level. PTH also increases, whereas calcitonin will decrease. Then the role of intestine. Calcitriol increases intestinal absorption. PTH also increases the intestinal absorption, whereas calcitonin will decrease the intestinal absorption of calcium. Then bone. Calcitriol stimulates osteoblasts. PTH stimulates osteoclasts, whereas calcitonin again stimulates osteoclastic cells. Kidney. So here, calcitriol will increase the renal reabsorption, whereas PTH will also increase the renal reabsorption and decrease the excretion of calcium, whereas calcitonin is opposite, right? So it decreases the reabsorption of calcium and helps to increase the excretion of calcium so that it can decrease the serum calcium level. So that is about the regulation part. Then the same thing, let me explain it in a diagrammatical way, diagrammatical representation of this homeostasis. So as we know, if the calcium levels are too high, so you can see here calcium levels are too high, then who should come into action? Calcitonin. So what is the role of calcitonin? It should bring down the calcium level. How? By acting on bone, intestine, as well as kidney. So what does calcitonin do? It stimulates osteoblasts. That means whatever the excess of calcium is present in the plasma or blood, it will take it and deposit it in the bone so that the plasma calcium level is decreased. The intestine, it decreases the calcium uptake by the intestine. Then kidney. So here it decreases the reabsorption and increases the excretion of calcium in the urine. Then finally what happens? Calcium level is regulated. So calcium levels decrease. Finally, the normal calcium levels in the blood are maintained. Then what happens if your body is having very low calcium level? So calcium levels are too low. Who should come into action? PTH. What is the role of PTH? To increase the serum calcium level. How? PTH. What is the role of PTH on bone? Osteoclastic activity. That means it removes the excess of calcium which is present in the bone and it takes into the blood. That means demineralization of calcium bone. So excess will be deposited, excess will be transported to the blood. Finally, it will increase the blood calcium. And intestine, it increases the calcium uptake in the intestine. So more of calcium is absorbed. The calcium levels will be increased. And what is the role on kidney? So your kidney, what does it do? So it increases the reabsorption of calcium by the kidney and decreases the excretion of calcium. So in this way, the overall role of PTH is to elevate the serum calcium level so that the normal homeostasis of calcium is maintained. That is to 9 to 11 milligrams per deciliter. So what happens if our body cannot regulate this calcium level? So you know either excess of calcium is dangerous or decreased calcium is dangerous. So what happens? It results in deficiency, right? So let us discuss about deficiency in the